Understanding Mother Stories podcast with Adeline Dubreuil. Your 10 minutes to talk about mothering and matrescence. Hello, Mama. Today I have the pleasure to introduce Mackenzie Costron and have a chat with her about what she does around motherhood and babies. Mackenzie is the owner and founder of Find Your Voice Music Therapy here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and currently provides trauma-informed music therapy and counseling services in the Halifax area as well as online. Did I get this right, Mackenzie?
Yeah, thank you. Perfect.
Okay. So welcome and thank you, Mackenzie, to be here with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
So let's dive into it. How did you get to music therapy? That's such an interesting and it's a specialty. So how did you get into this? I'm so interested because everybody loves music. Everybody knows the many benefits of music, but how do you get to music therapy?
It's really exciting to be in this field. It's music therapy is new generally to a lot of folks. They don't really know what it's about. Like you say, music's very accessible to a lot of people. They know the power of it in people's lives for therapeutic and wellness reasons. I found this work when I was in grade 10. I was in a careers and civics course, and I found music therapy, and I found that it was a beautiful amalgamation of multiple spaces in my life. I had a rich connection to music during my childhood, both self-guided play and creation at home and with friends, but also in community spaces. So there was that world that kind of connected to this world of being interested in really supporting and caring for other people. I would go into my grandmother's nursing home, and she had dementia and Alzheimer's. So I wanted to be there for her. I wanted to wheel her around to see sights and places in the home and feed her meals. So I found that it was a beautiful kind of amalgamation of both music and therapy in one space. I'm just really passionate about this work on how music has the power to regulate our nervous systems, to speak to our identity, to connect to our values and to community. It's just a really special place, which I think a lot of people know already, and they don't know that there's a field that really dives into the depths of what this could look like for health.
So what would you say was your relationship with music prior to even getting into music therapy, especially?
Yeah, so music, I'm very blessed and had the privilege to be enrolled into music classes as a young person. So I was taking piano lessons, voice lessons, and singing in choirs. And later in life, I had the opportunity to be in orchestras. I played the alto saxophone, jazz ensembles. Then also learned guitar. So I had some music spaces of that nature that were kind of, I guess, scheduled, but just also I remember playing music and being creative at my home, just freely dancing and exploring sound and music making by myself, but sometimes with my brother, sometimes with friends, just having play and fun with music.
Like creativity is such a beautiful gift, because I know it's not given to everybody to have that music ear, sometimes to feel creative. We want to, but it's not everybody that gets to do it. So that's beautiful that you got to have this opportunity. When it comes to music therapy, do you think that people go to music therapy because of the music part, or do they kind of like stumble on what you do?
People who come to us, they don't know that music therapy is a type of therapy, but they are very drawn to the idea of like, oh, I really love music, and I love the idea of kind of exploring that with a trained therapist that has a background maybe in counseling, psychotherapy, and other like maybe equity, diversity, inclusion. They are a therapist, but they're integrating music in a very active way, where I can explore creativity in a way that feels good for me. It could be singing and vocalizing or songwriting, recording music, creating meaningful playlists that are important to certain periods of their life. Music to support certain values or states of being for like relaxation, let's say, or energizing. So there's lots of ways that music can be integrated, I guess, in that way.
And the music is such an amazing vector. I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, how did you get into working specifically with moms? And can you tell us more about what you do with moms in regard to music therapy, especially?
Yeah. So how I got into working with moms was I was actively integrating what I knew about wellness. I've done a lot of work in mental health and still continue to do so. And I was integrating a lot of what I know on music and wellness into my pregnancy. My delivery of my baby via scheduled C-section and now into motherhood. So I was really, I guess, practicing what I preach. I guess, in a lived way. And I started dreaming, honestly, quite like in my pregnancy, but also during my maternity leave, and began to realize that there weren't many therapists across the world for that matter, integrating music so actively from a music therapist perspective, that is. With maternal health. So I really became interested in, applying that actively in those contexts. So music therapy in this context, when working with myself, my work involves both talking with where I bring perspectives in as a counseling therapist, as well as music through my training as a music therapist. So there's lots that can be done, as I mentioned, that support pregnancy, labor, delivery, postpartum motherhood. Looking at all angles of wellness during the whole period of this new chapter, this journey into matrescence. So there could be things like breath work, like how can we use breath in an effective way to nurture ourselves, to nurture baby in all parts of pregnancy and motherhood. Singing, vocalizing, chanting. So using the breath maybe in a more active way if people are interested in exploring vocalization. And different considerations around music and relaxation to help relieve stress and tension, anxiety, anything that is coming up with maternal mental health is really important in this period, and I think relevant for a lot of us. Other things that could be explored within music therapy in this context are improvisation. So that would be like freely creating, and maybe you may not have the words to express how you're feeling, but we could maybe consider using different instruments that resonate with the story or the quality that you're or the feeling that you're experiencing, and create some sort of soundscape. Maybe the words will describe what you're feeling, or the music will describe what you're feeling over the words. Songwriting is another way that you could maybe express your feelings in a way, capture moments in time of messages maybe that you want to pass on to baby, or capture moments in time of like how you're feeling in your journey. And those songs can stay with you forever. Playing instruments, creating a delivery playlist. There's lots that we can do, as you can see, to explore your journey, to explore identity into motherhood, and honor your story. I think that's really important. And I think another thing to note too with my work is that you don't need to have a background in music or to identify as a musician, or even say that you are a quote unquote good musician. We really try to create a space where everyone is honored, and that we create a space that's comfortable for all folks, and invite people into these spaces, but we're not forcing anybody. Technically, if you can speak, you have the capacity to, or even phonate, like your vocal cords are vibrating, you have the capacity to sing. There's just a lot of narratives in our minds saying that we can't do it, which come from a lot of Eurocentric, messages from the media of what's good music and what's bad. So technically it's biologically possible, but there's a lot of psychological elements that are in the mix.
I was going to ask, I was like, do you find that moms arrive and maybe feeling a little scared if you ask them to sing, and maybe they've always wanted to sing, it was a secret hobby of theirs, but they've never pushed it, or maybe they were told one day, oh, you're off key, and then it just stops someone in their track of even trying something new like singing? Do you find that you have some moms who arrive with some kind of fear to even try it in the first place?
Yeah, that happens. And that's so that's okay and that's valid. And like we have ideas on how, or I should say I have ideas on how to hold space for those moments and honor our process. And if we maybe feel comfortable and at a certain stage, then great. And if not, that's okay too. So there's lots of approaches, I guess, that are adapted according to the person. And I say we because I think a lot of therapists that I work with, especially on the Find Your Voice music therapy team, we all have that approach of holding space for if there's an interest there or curiosity, to honor that and the fear and giving everything a space, I guess, so we're not forced or pushed into something that feels really uncomfortable. And
absolutely, I love that.
Yeah.
And could you tell us more about how music can support babies' development once we've used that music into like prenatal and through birth and postpartum for yourself, but how can that also support babies' development?
Yeah, thank you for asking this. This is a really interesting area, I find, because especially with babies' development. So just in general, with any human on the planet, music triggers multiple areas of the brain. So it's one of the only activities that when you listen to music or actively engage in music in some way, whether it's singing or maybe tapping your toe to the beat, dancing like to a song that you hear on the radio, multiple areas of the brain are activated at the same time. So if you Google a brain that's listening to music or doing music, you'll see the whole brain is lit up. So it's triggering multiple areas of the brain, which is very exciting, I think, from a medical and therapeutic perspective. This is a finding that wasn't really apparent in our understanding of how music is impacting us until the 70s, when we had all the brain imaging technology available to us. So for littles, it connects us really closely to learning and skill development. So we're using music and certain types of songs that can connect us to skills that are connected to turn taking, to sharing, to listening skills, to movement skills, to communication, to attention span and focus. So there's lots of like skill development things that we can do through music. To a lot of people, it may look on the outside that the music therapist and the little, or whether it's one little or a group, that they're just singing a song, but there's actually a lot more that the music therapist is tracking in that music making experience, even though on the outside it may just seem like, oh, they're just singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. And so there's that piece. I think this might be a relevant piece to most people, or relatable, is that music can give infants and toddlers the opportunity to have a space for self-expression and creative expression through singing, vocalizing, movement, which is so huge, as we know, because infants have the drive and the interest to communicate with us, to connect with us through facial expressions, through sound. And music is another way that we can do that, to provide them the opportunity to express themselves in a different way prior to words being present, or in addition to words being present. It's a beautiful way to help with language development, sound development, using songs to help with certain vowels, words that you're learning. Yeah.
I also love listening to babies. There's some of them, who actually start singing before they start talking.
Yes.
They kind of hum certain things that they hear, especially if they've been surrounded by music from the get-go. It's so sweet, and it's just so beautiful to see that artistic part in a way developing prior to the language part, because often when we think about music, we think about songs, which means we put music and language together.
Yes.
But sometimes it's just the music part. It's just the instruments part. And I find that those are almost two different areas. Because when I did my master's, I remember it was in developing French second language. And we had all these class also where they had all these these brain scan of what was lit up when it came to bilingual children or trilingual children and things like that.
Yes,
and it was very specific to the area of language.
Right.
So obviously it's not exactly the same that when it's music, because you were talking about the whole brain being lit up. So I think that the music part is just fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
It's huge. And also I'd like to mention one more thing with babies and parents, I should say. not just moms, that music also allows for an incredible opportunity for child and parent connection, because the same hormone that gets released during childbirth, which is oxytocin, it's that like feel-good hormone that invites connection and bonding with parent and child. That same hormone is released when we listen to music. So it's you can still, the whole theory of attachment and bonding is huge with music and parents and littles, because this hormone gets released with any of us, even like
That's so
oxytocin is
cool.
released socially and relational contexts and with mom and dad. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So, last question for today. How do you feel that music has inspired and influenced you as a mother in your own motherhood and matrescence?
Yeah, I love this question. Thank you. I have been really thoughtful about both the lyrical and musical messaging, I would say, within like the sounds of my environment throughout my whole life. But I think, or I shouldn't say whole life, for a lot of my life. But I was very conscious of it, I guess, in my journey into motherhood. And I see how this like conscious, intentional awareness that a lot of it was cultivated from my training as a music therapist. I see how the choices of how my sound input has connected me even more deeply to the values that I've wanted to integrate into my pregnancy and into my motherhood journey. So some things that I was very conscious of how sound, whether it was the quality of music or the words, or the feelings that it evoked in me when I engaged listening or engaging maybe actively in making music in these spaces, were values of ease, values of steadiness, gentleness, confidence, play, resilience. Yeah, I really see how like music goes a lot deeper than just the notes on the page or the words you hear. Like I really feel this idea that like music can serve as like anthems to our soul. Like they speak to a very deep part of ourselves that are difficult to access sometimes, that it connects us to like meaningful people and stories. And there's this beautiful ecosystem of music. It comes from us. It comes from like that soul place, from our heart space, however, maybe the language you want to use. It comes from spirit, from God. And it is us. It comes from us and we create it. It's just like, it's this whole ecosystem of like, yeah, I find it really interesting how it comes from us and it is us kind of. And into motherhood, like I've had the pleasure of creating music with my daughter. It's just to have music and sound play with her is just, I feel really blessed with those spaces. Just it feels both like connecting to my own well-being. I'm just thinking of this morning, my daughter and I were sitting on the floor and we were reading this book, and there was this a picture of a boat that came on, and she associates this page with she says boat, and she immediately associates it with the song Row, Row, Row Your Boat. So she starts singing it, and she's on my lap and I can feel her vibration, and she's swaying, I'm swaying with her. And it just feels so nourishing for me, and just how we're both phonating at the same pitches and making notes, or phonating as in making the same notes at the same time. She's guiding it. We're creating together. Yeah, it just feels, it's a joy to create spaces like this for myself, but I also just love to hold spaces for these kinds of moments for parents and their littles, whether it's music with them together or music for yourself for maternal health. Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I think your little one is blessed to have a mom who can accompany her in doing this and just take the time to, be with little ones and integrate music and songs as part of your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie, for answering all our question about music and maternal health and babies, because I think when it starts very early, it's always a blessing. I truly feel it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time, Mama. Hey, Mama, would you like to have some more clarity on the kind of mother you want to be? or you need help to get where you want to be, then go to omama.ca and grab my free journaling challenge. I will help you every single day get where you want to be.